Hi, I'm Mrs. Timmons, and today we're going to talk about how to cite an image in NoodleTools. First off, you have to think about what source you're going to use to get your image. I would recommend that you use high-quality databases or trustworthy websites. You should not use any site that you wouldn't use for any other research project just because it has an attractive image. If it's not reputable, if it's not credible or authoritative, if it doesn't give you any accurate information about where that image came from and who created it. So if you use a blog or a Pinterest pin, those are probably not going to work for a school project because they don't give you enough information about the source of the image. You should steer toward your quality databases, and also some websites are great for images. For example, Wikipedia has a lot of good images, and I'll explain to you how to get the source information from Wikipedia, but also the websites of actual museums. So for example, the Metropolitan Museum in New York has a lot of artwork of their collection. And there's a website called Pixabay that has a lot of free images that you can use that are copyright cleared. So they don't have to be databases. You can also use websites. You can even scan images out of books, but you always have to make sure that the website that you use is giving you lots of credible information. If it's not, you need to look harder and find a different source. So let's look at what information you're going to need to get in order to cite your image. Again, you may use a database, you might use a website, you might even use an image out of a book, but let's just say for this example we got it from a database. You have a couple of choices in NoodleTools. You have to choose between a photo, a born digital image, or down here a work of visual art. A photograph would be a classic photo. So think of some of the photographs of the March on Washington with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the I Have a Dream speech. Those are classic black and white photographs, and the original thing you're citing is a photo. Born digital refers to something created on the computer, so any kind of graphic artwork would count as a born digital, or a lot of photos taken more recently, a photograph of the current president most likely is born digital. And then last, and this is most common for a history paper, a work of visual art. So a painting, an object, a sculpture, anything like that would actually count as a work of visual art. So let's just click that, and what you'll see is that there are not a lot of pieces of information. So it's only asking you the database name and URL, and then just a couple pieces of information. Do you know the artist? What type of art is it? So we'll say it's a sculpture. Do you know the title? If not, just click Untitled and write in a description of your own. Do you know the year created? Sometimes you don't know the artist or even the year, and all you have is the title and the URL in the database. That's fine. Similarly, for a website, you may only know the name of the website, the URL. Hopefully you can provide a description with the name of the sculpture. If it's a painting, you're more likely to know the year created, and the artist would be the photographer. But as you can see, there are really very few pieces of information that you need to fill in. So when we look at some of our most common databases, something like ABC Clio has lots of photos and illustrations. Something like a CAT scan would be probably born digital, and they do not give you a photographer's name, but they do give you the name of the sort of company in charge of that photograph. So if you wanted, we can go to a born digital photo from a database. So that would be our ABC Clio database right here. We've got our URL, and because it's a photograph, the artist would be the company that owns or created the photograph. And because it's a company instead of a person, I could use the last name or group to just put that credit information right there and then type in a description of the photograph. Something similar is here I am in Britannica Image Quest, and instead of using a work of visual art, so instead of using, for example, a picture of a work of visual art, if I want a straight up photograph, so for example, here's a photograph of the Valley of the Kings. If I click on the exact picture and I even have a cite button down here where I can get even more information. It actually tells me the name of the photographer, the person who took the picture, and the year they took the photograph. Okay, so you can use this as the title right up here. You can get the name of the photographer, and you've even got the year of the photograph. So you can cite all of that as, again, it's a database, Encyclopedia Britannica, but I've got the name of the photographer right there. Harry Burton. But what if it's a sculpture or statue, not a photograph? Okay, so here is Britannica School. So you don't even have to go separately into Britannica Image Quest. If you find a great image in Britannica School, that's great. But again, I've got Lee Bolton right down here, given credit, the name of the person who took this picture. I can also click on this picture and get some more information. Okay, so I've got basically the title of the picture, and I've got Lee Bolton's name as who took the picture. Another example, let's go back to Wikipedia. I've got a picture right here. If I click on it, I can get more details. The more details button is what's going to let me actually download. Okay, but I've got because this is a work of visual art, right? This was originally a mask. When you cite something as a work of visual art, it actually does not care about the photographer's name in this case. So because I'm citing a sculpture, it's only really wanting to know the sculptor's name if I know it, and there's really no other field where I can put in the photographer. Okay, so the name of my database right here is Wikimedia Commons. Okay, right there. This is where it's got the all the pictures that Wikipedia uses. I can paste my URL down there. I can download the image and see if there is any more information about where this picture came from, just to make sure that it's legitimate. Again, the museum itself provides some information. It even tries to give me a date range. We still don't know the sculptor's name. And then if I were to use this piece of graphic art, I would change to Born Digital. And I would be entering in this case, I'd be getting this from Pixabay. And I can find the artist name. Again, it's Born Digital, so it's not a sculptor. Right here, I have this artist name. If I click on it, it'll confirm the name of the person who created this piece of graphic art is Peter Lomas, and I can add that in. So finding out the title is not that hard, because if you can't find it out, you can always just click on titled and type in a description. The year will either be provided on the website or not. You usually are going to have a name of your database or website and a URL. The hardest piece of information to figure out is who should you be citing as the artist responsible, and where do you get that information? Again, if it's something Born Digital, or if what you're citing is actually itself a photograph, then you want to try and find the photographer's name, and that's who you'll be giving credit to for the photograph. But if it's a work of art, most likely you will not use the photographer's name and just give credit to the artwork itself. So again, only about 5 fields that you have to fill out. Hopefully not too bad. And remember, if you do use something in a book, you would actually cite the book itself. Visual art reproduced in a book. You would give as much information, so let's say we have a print book. You would give as much information here about the artist of the sculpture, painting, photograph, whatever. And then down here is where you just put all of your regular book information as if you were citing a book. And the piece of extra information you have to add is the page number that you found it on. I hope that that is doable for you. Not a lot of pieces of information. You just have to think a little bit in the beginning about what information you need to gather. Remember, always when you're citing something online, you want your URL to connect exactly to the graphic that you used. So be careful that whatever URL you used is not connecting just to, say, the search field. right? The search that you did, make sure your URL is always connecting exactly to the image that you use. If you remember that, you should be in good shape. Thanks.